10 shocking things about starting daycare. So if you have a child that's about to start their daycare journey, you're going to expect some things, and then some things may be unexpected. I'm going to walk you through 10 things that sort of slightly surprised us or threw us off, or that we just basically hadn't thought of or weren't expecting. I do want to also say, before becoming a mom and actually sending my child to daycare, I grew up at an in-home daycare. My mom ran a daycare in our home, so I had that experience. I've also worked as a nanny, and then at this point we were sending our first child to daycare. They were about 18 months old, give or take a little bit, and this daycare was a daycare facility rather than an in-home daycare. So they were in a class amongst their peers. That's the gist of it. Let's jump right into some of the things that surprised us. Number one was labeling food and drinks. So when we first started with this daycare, they did not have a cafeteria. They provided the snacks and we provided the lunch. Now, we knew that going into it, but I was surprised at how much labeling we had to do. We had to put their name on it and their date on it. That was every day with all their items, even though the teachers knew, we always send, say, the green Tupperware, or we always send the same lunchbox. You still had to label it. I'm sure that was like for state requirements, but just kind of threw us off. We kind of used a temporary solution during this, and I actually would just rip off a piece of masking tape, write her name, write the date, and then stick it on the container. They do make reusable labels that you can write on and erase them every day. I would recommend going that route if you were going to be in daycare for any amount of time and be sending food or drinks that need to be labeled. Now, on the same topic, my second one is the multiple cups we had to send. So when we first started daycare, they sort of explained that they're not allowed to refill the cups, which I get that. We send their drinks and that's it. So I thought maybe we would send like 2 water cups a day. So they drink the first one and then they'd have that backup cup. We didn't do milk with our first child. They had allergies. So just water cups. But they actually had to have a specific cup for each time they sat down for like a meal or a snack. So our child had a morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack. So we had to send 3 cups every day. And again, we put a piece of tape on them, wrote their name, and then wrote the date. It was more packing than I think we expected and more labeling all around in the food process. Now our child is much older, and in the older classes, they got to the point where the kids would drink out of open like Dixie cups. They would all drink water, so we didn't have to send cups. And then they actually opened up the cafeteria portion of the daycare, and they provide the lunch and the snacks. So we got away from that. But in the beginning, it was different, and it definitely took some planning and some work on our part to have those food and drinks prepared every single day. Another thing I would recommend when it comes to sending food, whether it's lunchbox or whether it's cups, is try to get matching sets and send the same ones every day if possible. So we had 3 cups. They were just identical. That way the daycare providers get familiar with which cup goes to which kid. It's going to save them time when they're setting them all out or passing them around. It makes it easier for them. So try to be consistent for them and to help them out. Number 3, my last one on food, is that they have to throw out the uneaten food. Now, I understand, again, this is going to be state guidelines that can't send home food that's just gone bad. I completely understood that, but I was curious. I was curious to see how much food my child was eating. Because again, they were 18 months old. They couldn't come home and say, "Hey mom, could you pack me a little more food?" Or, "I'm not eating anything you send." It's all ending up on the floor. So this is where communicating with the teachers was extremely important. And oftentimes what I would do is have like a cold lunch that would go in the fridge, and that would be like whatever it was, hot dogs, mac and cheese, whatever the case was, fruit. But then I would also send something in a little package, like a package of Fig Newtons or a granola bar of some sort, something that could stay in her bag multiple days, and they would allow that. And I said, hey, if she is finishing all of her food and it seems like she needs more, there are backup items in the backpack. So that was the way I sort of manipulated that system a little bit, because my goal was to try not to send too much food that were being wasteful, but I didn't want to send not enough and they were leaving the meal hungry. Now, a lot of daycares are going to have an app, and they are going to note what your child ate for lunch, but they're not going through, depending on how many kids are in the room, they're not going through and writing, ate 2 out of the 6 strawberries. They're not being that detailed. They're going to say, ate some strawberries, or ate some sandwich, ate all of strawberries. They're not going to be real specific. So again, I think communicating with them and kind of getting a feel for how your child is doing is important and helpful. Okay, so sickness. I had heard when you start your child at daycare, they're going to get sick. They get all the germs and they just can't handle it. They get sick. I think that's well known. What tricked us, we made it through the initial, they got sick. We, had our PTO, we used it, managed, got them back in daycare and going, but then we pulled them out for a week-long vacation. Went on vacation, came back, and we think everything's all hunky-dory, they got sick again. What I would tell you or warn you is expect them to get sick potentially anytime you pull them out for an extended period of time. Because again, they got to get reacclimated and introduced to all the germs in the classroom. So that was something that sort of surprised us or caught us off guard. Okay, something that you may or may not have thought about is your child's probably going to be wearing shoes most of the day. My mom ran an in-home daycare. I was used to kids taking their shoes off. When my husband and I decided on a daycare, we were looking at an in-home and we were looking at this larger church daycare facility. And we ended up going with the larger facility. But then when it was time to then send her, I kind of had that realization of oh, they probably leave their shoes on all day. Maybe take them off for their quiet time or nap time. But even that, I'm not sure if they took them off. They slept on cots. And that kind of threw me off a little bit. I was used to a very homey daycare, and I realized it wasn't quite like that at a larger daycare facility. Totally makes sense and all that. I'm not critiquing it. I just had that realization, and I don't know, kind of bummed me out that their shoes were on all day. So again, random thing that caught us off guard, and I just want to share with you. Outside time, I would say it can be surprising how much or how little they get. How many times are they going outside a day? Weather permitting, of course. And for how long? Do they go outside once for 30 minutes and that's it? Or how much time are they getting maybe in a playroom that's outside of the classroom or a gym or just sort of activity center? I would definitely ask on that because we definitely had mixed feelings on how much outside time they were getting. Okay, another one that really caught me off guard was how personable the staff was. So this daycare, bunch of rooms, bunch of different age brackets, lots of kids coming in and out of there. And within the first week, multiple teachers, workers, even some of the cleaning staff, they would greet our child by name. And that definitely caught us off guard. I thought it was amazing that they that quickly knew her name and who she was. And this is when, again, she was 18 months old. She can't even really talk. But they, for whatever reason, or however they structure it, they really learn these new kids' names very, very quickly. And I loved that because I was worried about my child feeling like a number there or just a little minion. And I wanted to make sure they were a person. And with them being nonverbal, I loved that they knew who she was very quickly. Also with my child, they were struggling with an egg and dairy allergy. Still are, I should say. When they're passing out snack, there's a chart in the room that says so-so can't have milk or egg. But then who is that kid? You got to match up the information to the person. And she couldn't raise her hand to go, that's me, I can't have dairy and egg. So it was really cool that they learned her name so quickly. Crafts. I was surprised at the number of worksheets and crafts we were getting brought home, even at 18 months when I'm they can't even hold a crayon, but they still took the time to do them. The footprint or the handprint, and those are sweet. Those are the keepsakes in my opinion. So loved that and thought that was really cool. And then as they continued to get older, the number of crafts coming home and even worksheets, our daycare is like a preschool. They've learned a ton. So I've been very, very impressed. Something that has surprised us at both pickup and drop off for my husband and for myself is other parents. We have noticed some of these other parents are in and out of there in 2 minutes. And that's fine. Maybe they got places to go. Maybe they're in a hurry. But it just seems like they're rushing off so fast. Whereas we like to talk to the teachers for a minute. Hopefully we're not annoying them too much. But we're just wanting to check in and sort of get a feel for the room and how our kid is doing. And again, are they eating their food? Are they sleeping at nap time? We're curious about their day. We're interested in their day. And we're interested in having a relationship with this teacher who is with our child the majority of our child's day. We just feel like this person's very important and want to, sort of give them the respect and appreciation that we think they deserve. And I don't mean to be cruel on this because if you're in a hurry, you're in a hurry. I get it. But if every day you're just dropping your kid off and just running out of there and not even acknowledging the workers, I find that really cold and somewhat disrespectful. And again, I have a background as my mom ran a daycare and I've worked as a nanny. And I just really think it's important to have a good relationship. General accommodations. So we have found our daycare to be fairly accommodating. Our daughter, again, had an egg and dairy allergy, and the daycare was responsible for snack time. We were responsible for the mealtime, and they did a really good job at accommodating her on the snacks, especially in the beginning. They went through different snacks with me. We made a list, and they really, really tried to make a strong effort. I thought I would need to provide more food than I have, and they've been great about that. Now, over the course, it's been a process of they didn't have a cafeteria. They got a new leader of the cafeteria. There's been a couple points where I did provide a loaf of bread and a bag of her plant-based cheese, fake cheese. So I've provided a couple things to sort of assist them along the way with their allergies, but overall they've been very accommodating and they've made it work, which I really appreciate. very much. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up there. Some daycares and the things that they have going on are going to surprise you. Some you're going to expect. The best thing you can do is research the daycare before you commit. Please take a tour, do an interview, check the place out, and have these questions. By watching this video, you can ask some of these questions and address them before you commit. So check out a couple daycare resources. I'm going to link them at the end of this video and in the description. When it comes to daycare, be flexible and keep the lines of communication open as much as possible. And that's going to get you the best daycare experience you can for yourself and, of course, most importantly, your child. So I hope this helps in your daycare adventure, and good luck to you. Please check out those resources if you are starting daycare soon.